So this is my 2010 Subaru, and I've been having trouble with the TPMS light coming on. But it would only come on when I was going 75 miles an hour down the interstate. By the time I went to Discount Tire and had them check it, the light had gone out, and that happened twice. Several times out on the interstate, light would come on going 75 miles an hour. I'd pull over and I'd check the tires. They looked fine. Check the air pressure. They were around 34, 35 PSI. Get back in the car and the light was off. But I'd go, I don't know, another 10 or 20 miles and then the light would come back on. It would just flash for a while and then eventually it would go solid. And I'd pull over and I'd look at the tires again and everything was fine, so I'd go on. Anyway, I finally decided, since every time I went to Discount Tire to have them check, and they said the batteries were okay and everything was fine, I finally decided to buy an Autel. This is a 508. And that way I could check those sensors myself whenever the light came on. I could just pull over and check it when the light came on. Well, much to my surprise, I would pull over and I would check it with this thing, check each tire individually, and it said every one of them was okay, even though the light was still on in the dash. So I used my OBD cable to hook it up and get the data off of the ECU and electronic control unit, ECU. And sure enough, it gave me a weird reading that voltage, what did it say? It said decrease the voltage. I'm like, what? How do you decrease the voltage? Anyway, I looked up the codes up. They were like 52, 53, no, 50, 51, 52, yeah, 52, 53, and 54. That's what they were, 52, 53, and 54. No 51. But when I looked them up I Googled those codes, I found out that it does indeed mean that you have low voltage on your batteries, which makes sense because this is a 2010. These are the original TPS units. So anyway, I bought this TS 508, and by reading the data off of the ECU, or the DTCs they call them, off of the ECU, I did find out that I had low batteries on 3 of them, and I just figured, well, I might as well just buy 4 because the other one's going to go bad pretty soon too. This is 2021, December 2021, so almost 2022, and this is a 2010. So those original ones lasted almost 12 years, 10 years for sure. So I've replaced now the one on this is the left rear. I replaced that one this morning, and then I also replaced the right rear this morning, and I've already done the right front, and now I'm getting ready to do, you can see I already broke the bead on this. I'm getting ready to do the left front. You can see I've got it jacked up over here, and I've got a jack stand underneath there. And I just got through breaking the bead using what they call a BeadBuster. So this is the one that I used. XB-452. And even with this one, I had a hard time breaking the bead, especially on this tire. But on the first one I did, which would have been the left rear, it broke pretty easy. But then I struggled a little bit on the other ones, and this one I really struggled on. I had to put this tool at every spoke. I had to put it spoke opening, I guess I should call it. I had to put it here, 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 and here. That's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different spots. And then I finally got it where I could set it all the way in there. You need to get so there's no gap here. And when you first start, there's going to be a small gap, maybe 1/8 of an inch. And this thing wants to come out of there. I soaped it up with soapy water. And so it would want to slip out of there. But once you finally get it where it will seat, so I went around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I think on this one here, I started off and it started to slip out, so I backed off and I pushed this all the way down so there was no gap, and then I went ahead and pushed it in, and then I went ahead and tightened this one and tightened this one, and I got a good bite. If you leave that 1/8 of an inch there, you won't get a good bite, and it's going to try to slip out on you. It'll start slipping out. But if you get a good bite, so there's no gap there, which is what I did on the 6th one, then it started to break loose. And then I just went to the next one, and it started to break loose, and then I went to the next one, and then I heard it kind of pop. And then I was able to go on around and pop all the rest of them. But some people say just get a long 2x6 or something and put it on here and drive up on it. But you can see it really breaks the bead, but it also smashes the heck out of the tire. And I was just a little leery about that. So anyway, I bought the BeadBuster, and hopefully it'll come in handy if my daughter, who has a 2014 Jeep Patriot, maybe she has a couple more years on her TPS. My wife has a 2012 Nissan, so they're 10 years old. I'm thinking that they're going to go bad. So anyway, hopefully this tool will come in handy for those two vehicles. And so right now I'm getting ready to set this thing up so that I can take, and this is the hardest part. I finally had to use a 1/4 inch wrench. I don't know if I can get this thing to focus on there. See, that's a 1/4 inch wrench. And I'm using only a 1 inch long T10 Torx to get the screw in there, and you don't have a lot of room to work. So this was what I finally had to use. I could not get this to work because it's just too big. You can see the difference here. I can get this 1/4 inch wrench, and I taped it on there so that it wouldn't accidentally fall down in there. So I taped the bit into that 1/4 inch wrench so it doesn't fall down in the tire. But I can't get this thing in there. So this has come in really handy, this right here. And mine just, the screws on my OEM TPS were, the screws are T10s, Torx. So I'm going to get this thing ready, and I'm going to pause it right now, get it ready, and show you how I kind of take those screws out. Okay, so just real quick here, I use the BeadBuster to take this tire down, and then I can get a 2x4 stuck in there. And now I'll take this off and I'll move it over to the other side of the valve stem. Pause it. Okay, so I've taken the BeadBuster off of that side over there, and I've moved it over here. And you can use a crowbar like that to pry it down, or you can just push down on it and try to put something like this. This is a 5/8 inch piece of plywood, and you can see I don't want to have a gap there. Push that in. Now I'm going to screw it down. I'm going to put it on pause while I do that. Okay, so with that 5/8 inch piece of plywood underneath the BeadBuster, and you can see this screw is all the way down. I'm able to get that opened up pretty good, so maybe I'll be able to work on there. Now I'm going to take my crowbar now, and I'm going to wedge this down a little bit more and get another piece of plywood. Besides this, another piece of plywood to hold it down even further so I can get to that. You can see the screw in there, the Torx T10 screw. I'm going to put it on pause. Okay, so you can see I got a 2x4 and a piece of that 5/8 inch plywood underneath, between the tire and the rim there. And over here I've got my BeadBuster and a large piece of plywood pushing it down pretty good. These spoke tires, if I didn't have this spoke here, then I would be able to put this maybe like right here. And you can see it opens it up really good, but that's about as close as I can get and still have room to turn my my wrench in there to get that T10 Torx screw out. So I'm going to start working on that now. This is the setup that I use. I can take that out of there now. That's the setup I use so I can get this 1/4 inch wrench with a T10, and you just have to turn it as much as you can, take it out, put it back in, just keep turning and turning until you finally get that screw out. Takes some doing. I really wished that I could get this in there and ratchet it out, but I just can't get this in there. There's just not enough room. You can see what it looks like. You can see where that Torx is coming up to. So I'm stuck with this method, but at least I got this. I'm going to pause it. Okay, hopefully you can see that screw is almost all the way out now. I started putting this up there and just turning it with my fingers because that screw's pretty loose now. But I got in a hurry and I dropped this thing and it went down in that tire. And it's a bear to get out of there. But luckily I had this magnet here with an extendable arm. So I was able to turn this tire up so that it was standing up like if you were going to drive it. And then I was able to stick this down inside of there, this magnet down inside of there, and I was able to get a hold of this thing. You can see the magnet will grab it. I managed to get it out of there. So, big hint there. Try not to drop whatever you're using down inside your tire, or you're going to end up having to use a magnet to get it out. I kept thinking I may have to take this tire in and have them break it down completely, take it completely off the rim so I can get that damn thing out. But I got it out with a magnet. So here's another little tip. Take a rag. Hard to do with one hand. Let me put this down. Take a rag and put it in there like that, so that if I was to drop that, when I get that screw out, I don't want to drop it down inside of that tire and then have to try to fish it out with a magnet. So with this rag, hopefully it'll fall on the rag. And then I can use this and just turn the rest of the way with my fingers. And if I drop it, the rag's going to keep it from going down in the tire. I should have thought of that this morning because I spent a long time trying to fish this dang thing out of the tire. Anyway, hopefully that'll help someone. Okay, so sure enough, I got this up in there and I was turning it with my fingers to get that screw on out. And you can see where it fell. And I'm glad I had the rag there. So now I don't have to try to fish it out. And once you get the screw out, these things just come out pretty easily. So this is the OEM sensor for a 2010 Subaru. So now all I got to do is get that stem out of there.